Hi guys, Mrs. Page again. This is Module 5, Lesson 10, and I believe today should be Thursday that we're going over what you did yesterday in math. So same thing, we are dividing, only the difference now is we're not just dealing with half, we are dealing with showing that there are different equivalent fractions. So hopefully my shadow is not going to drive you crazy. So on the example here, you're going to look at the whole picture first and think of this like almost like a candy bar, and kind of looks like a candy bar. Looks like a candy bar, and this candy bar has 6 total parts and 4 of them are shaded, or you could say 4 of them were eaten, right? Now, I decide maybe my candy bar isn't eaten, and maybe I want to share it with, I don't know, some friends. And I want each friend to get 2 parts. So I'm going to group my candy bar, see this, into groups of 2. And when I do this, I wonder how many friends I could share it with. It looks like I could share it with 3 friends, so a total of 3 friends. And maybe I gave away my 2 friends already. Maybe this is what I have left over. So same concept. We are grouping when you're dividing by a number. That number you're dividing by is how many pieces are going to be in each group. So I'm dividing by 2. I'm going to show a group of 2, a group of 2, and a group of 2. And when I'm finished, my total units are smaller. I have less of them. So I have 1, 2, 3 total units. And the pieces got bigger. So notice how we went from this little piece to this big piece. So now I'm going to show that there's 2 parts shaded out of a total of 3, which is equivalent to what 4 parts were shaded out of 6. All right, I'm going to move over here just because this shadow is driving me crazy. I don't know about you. All right, we're going to look at the whole thing first. So when you look at the whole thing, how many parts do you have? I'm going to wait a second, see if you can tell yourself how many parts you have. The answer should be 8. Oops, 8. And out of all those 8 parts, how many are shaded? And the answer is 6. All right. So we are going to show that 6/8 is equivalent to another fraction by dividing by 2. So I'm taking what I have here and dividing it into groups of 2. Dividing it into groups of 2. There's a group of 2. There's a group of 2. There's a group of 2. And there's a group of 2. And when I do that, let me just catch myself up here. When I do that, I have less units, so I go from 8 units to 4 units. And what's 8 divided by 2? It's 4, right? And when I do that, I get less units, and the units get bigger. So rather than this little tiny square, I'm looking at 2 of them together. The parts get bigger. So you can also look at 6 divided by 2 is 3. So those are my 3 parts shaded out of 4. All right, I'm going to do one more on the other side because now, let's see, that's not the one I wanted to do. I wanted to do, well, they have you drawing pictures. Let me do one real quick for you. I'm going to do this one so it's not in the shadow here. All right, so I have my entire first fraction, which should be 6/9. So I need to show, there's a couple different ways you could do this, okay? There's 9. You could have had it going a different way as long as you're showing 6/9. And I'm going to color in my 6/9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, so that's my original fraction. And I want to show that I'm now grouping or dividing into groups of 3. So I need to pick groups of 3. And look at this. Watch this. You got to be careful. Don't go this way. because if you do that, you've got 2 shaded and 1 not shaded. You want to group all like parts. So these are all shaded. I can group them together. These are all shaded. I can group them together. And these are all shaded and I can group them, or not shaded, and I can group them together. So when I do this, I'm showing that 2 parts out of 3 are shaded. All right, let's do one on the other side. And it's not with a picture. And I apologize that my writing's terrible, but I'm holding my phone when I do this. Okay, so let's look at, it says use division to rename each fraction given below. Draw a model if it helps you. See if you can use the largest common factor. Oh boy. All right. So we've got 4/8. Now, we are renaming to show equivalent fractions. Common factor. Remember, a factor is a number that when you multiply it by another number equals these numbers. Okay, so you need to find the highest common factor. So these look like they're pretty friendly together. However, although they work well together, 8 is not a factor of 4. I can't multiply anything times 8 to get to 4. However, I can multiply something times 4 to get me to 8. So 4 is going to be the common factor because I can multiply a number times 4 and get to 4, and I can multiply a number times 4 and get to 8. So 4 is the highest common factor. It's obviously the highest common factor because I can't get any higher than this 4 here. Okay, so when you're looking at finding the common factor, look at the relationship between the numbers you see because one of those numbers could be the common factor. All right, so I'm going to take my 4/8 and I'm going to divide it by that common factor. And what I want to do is when I divide by the common factor, it's going to give me the lowest possible fraction. We haven't talked about this yet, but eventually you're going to learn that you want to have your fraction in lowest terms. So, which means you can't break it down to be any less number of groups. So finding the highest common factor will give you the lowest fraction in lowest terms. All right. I was going to put that in a friendlier term for parents, but it's escaping me right now. It's just the lowest, the smallest fraction. All right. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. So you're seeing here that 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. Now in my class, I'm sure Mrs. Anderson has brought this up too. Whenever the top number of a fraction is half of the bottom number, it's always equivalent to 1/2. So I joke around with my kids and I say, well, what is 50/100ths equal to 1/2? And the answer is yes, it is. So as long as that top number is half of the bottom number, your fraction's equivalent to 1/2. All right. Hope you guys did well on this.